Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Society. This is Stetson Wolf, creator of the Paranormal Investigation Team. Um, this is a little bit different than most of the paranormal videos. Instead of doing investigations, I'm doing story time, which is going to be either people from the team or other people, whether we go to somebody's house to check it out, different things like that. These are going to be the interviews of people telling their paranormal phenomena stories or their theories behind the paranormal and their beliefs behind it too. Because one guy on the team, he doesn't necessarily believe, but he doesn't not believe. He's on the wall. He believes in what he can see, which I'm hoping to get his interview on here soon. I was trying to have Ryman's in mine up before we went to the Snyder Cemetery, but yeah, let's get into it. So, ever since I was really little, probably about 3 years old, was when I would have been living where I was at, I've had a spirit attached to me. He would come walking through the house carrying a gun and go out the back door, which led to nothing. You can physically hear the door open up and shut. And I was just waking up every night about 3:30 on the dot, just crying and screaming that there's a man with a gun in the house. And my mom and her boyfriend at the time, Chris, they were sitting playing cards the one night, and he looks beyond her and sees this monstrosity of a figure, which just kind of sat there kind of trembling, and she was freaking out, and she's like, what? And she just turned around and she didn't see anything. Frank, this entity, let that slip out. Frank, his name was Frank. He wouldn't show himself to her, just myself every night in his human form and some sort of different form when he was revealing himself to Chris. And Chris went running down to the basement, grabbed a random newspaper, and opened it up and pointed to it. And he's like, it's Frank. Frank is the guy that's been showing himself to Stetson at night, or the entity that's been showing himself. And my theory on that is Frank revealed himself to Chris, then manifested himself in Chris, since for whatever reason my mom couldn't see him. And Chris was seeing some sort of monstrosity figure of him. My mom then started asking around the neighbors, and the one neighbor was saying that Frank was a really great guy. He actually lived in the house that we were living in. He had passed away 2 years ago, but really loved kids, like just loved their innocence and wanted nothing but the best for them. And just to be on the safe side, my mom had went to exorcise him, but he was attached to me. He wasn't attached to the house or anything any longer. He was strictly attached to me. And I wasn't there. My mom went to do an exorcism, and whatever else was in the house that Frank was trying to protect me from had got exorcised. The doors were opening and slamming shut, drawers were flying open, stuff flying off the walls, furniture getting moved all around the house. And she just ran out of the house afterwards, and while all that was going on, and the only person that she knew of that was at least partial believer to the paranormal was her boss. And she was talking to him, and whenever his father had passed, his father had left him a handgun, I believe is a revolver, and she was telling him about everything. And 2 years ago, which is when Frank would have died at the time, the handgun that his father had given him or left him went missing. Now, Frank, he didn't die from suicide, he died of natural causes, but when my mom described the gun that Frank had, it was the exact same gun that her boss's dad had left him. And that was about the earliest paranormal activity that's happened to me. Aside from that, which just to get into one of my theories, as a child, a lot of children have imaginary best friends. Has it ever crossed your mind that maybe those best friends aren't so imaginary, but just entities that can be heard, that children can hear better compared to adults because their mind runs so wild and free? This is more recent. I was messing around with this app. I didn't really believe in it. I did try to debunk it multiple times, the Deadwave app. We're going to use it a lot because I have tried multiple times in different ways to debunk it, and I haven't been able to. And when I was little, I was the only child, and didn't really have too many friends that I hung out with, but I had a imaginary friend named John. And then flash forward to about, it was earlier this year, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I was messing around with the Deadwave app and came in contact with a entity named John, or that went by John, and I was talking to him, and according to what I got through from him, he's also protecting me. I don't know what's after me, but there's some dark shit that's after me somewhere around here, because aside from John and Frank, now also Chris, my mom's boyfriend from before, they're all watching me. They're all protecting me. And, well, John, I was talking to him while I was grilling outside, and then I was like, alright, I'll talk to you guys later and everything like that, because you never want to leave a place or conversation without saying goodbye, otherwise they'll follow you everywhere, and depending, you might want them to, depending on which ones they are, but told him goodbye and everything. He's like, alright, and everything like that. Everything seemed okay. Well, apparently he wasn't finished talking, because I came inside with the steaks and turned the corner, and over by one of the windows I heard a growl, and dogs weren't in the house, and this was no human or animal type of growl. It was completely disembodied, and it sounded, when you hear a disembodied growl, you can tell the difference of whether or not it's an animal or something else. But, Laura's getting tired. I'll switch hands here. That's what she said. Aside from that, like I said, there's so many, trying to choose which ones to add in here, because I don't want this to be a really long video. Guess I'll just keep going up kind of the storyline. Well, after a while, in the old house that was on this property, in my room, there was always weird stuff happening, which my mom will be able to tell you more stories whenever I do her interview video, and she is part of the paranormal team here at Beyond the Veil Society, because she remembers that very well, of all the things that happened in that house, in my room more specifically. One of the things I do remember, though, is one of the things that always freaked me out. As the night went on, the moon would just come blaring in through the windows in my room, and almost every single night if you would look up at the ceiling fan, aside from the shadow of the blade spinning, there'd be a shadow of a man kneeling down with a rifle, almost like a military uh, personnel kneeling with. I want to say is more like an M1 Grand style rifle. You know, it wasn't like an M16 or big ass machine gun. But all I remember is just having the weirdest dreams when I was staying there. Um, don't think they have anything to do necessarily paranormal wise, but they're really weird. Um, After that, it remained fairly mellow because the house ended up burning down, and we ended up staying on a separate trailer on the property. And I don't really have too much memory of any paranormal activity happening while I was there. I do have good memory of being there too, so I don't really think anything happened for a little while there. But fast forward a couple years, and we have this place where I reside at now. The bed that I was staying in, we had in a separate trailer, and it was my bed while I was growing up here too. And I'm convinced that it's cursed in some way, because that's when I had the strangest paranormal activity. Aside from the normal stuff, there was a ghost whisper of a little girl saying my name, which I've done a little bit of research in that. I don't believe in demons, but as far if you do any research that, they say it's a luring demon. So my guess is it's just a dark entity, not a demon, but negative energy. And it tries to lure you out somewhere where it can get either close to you or attached to you, and feed off your energy. Which one of the stories Ryman's going to talk about involves this next one. Either the same night or a few nights after that, luring entity had whispered my name. I look out into my doorway, and there's this clear as day silhouette of like a World War I era soldier with glowing red eyes. I mean, they weren't blood red, which there is another entity on this property with blood red eyes, and that's all you see is just the eyes. There's no body, nothing else. Just these eyes, and they are really, they're not like human eyes. I won't even say they're like animal eyes. They have a very weird shape and design to them. But yes, World War I soldier or II soldier is just standing in my doorway with these really red eyes, and he's just standing there looking at me. I'm just looking at it, and it's just standing there. And then after about 30 seconds or a minute, it's gone. It just vanishes out of nowhere. Aside from that, I had started developing a really strong sixth sense going through my later teen years. It was really, really strong sixth sense. I mean, I could see them, hear them, and communicate with them just by talking to them. Like, if somebody saw me in public, they would think I was just talking to myself. But one of my theories, or some of the logic I have, is if you believe in one God, you kind of have to believe in them all. If that makes any sense. But I have a lot of strong Celtic, like Druid views on religion, and I have multiple Celtic tattoos. One of them's a cross, And at the time, it was fairly fresh. I prayed to a Celtic god to protect me, um, because it was to the point where it was like poltergeist activity, and I blessed my room, and they were trying to get in, and they're just shaking my door back and forth to the point where the door hinge, I don't want to call them nails, but the pins that go through the door hinge were actually rattling up and coming out, and it was almost pulling the hinges out of my door too, and so I had blessed, uh, prayed to Celtic god, and had it blessed, but over the years is done poorly and it faded. As it's been fading, my sixth sense has started to come back stronger again, and the some of the more recent activity I've noticed, uh, this one, it's happened to me a few times throughout the years, but it's one of those things I always just brushed off because there's no train tracks really near my place. I mean, there's one area that is near, but they removed all the tracks. They just have two carts in there now. It's kind of like a museum in a way. You can go and check them out. And anyway, I was pretty much any time at night. It's happened multiple times at different times throughout the years, but you can hear a old steam engine plain as day, and like the coal fed kind of actual steam engines, and you can hear the of the exhaust coming out and of the pistons of the wheels turning, and you can hear the wheels screeching, come to halt, hear a whistle, everything. But the closest train around here isn't a coal type train, and it's 20 or 30 miles away. So it's kind of hard to explain how I'm hearing the braking and pistons of a train as if they're right in my backyard. And then every time I'd hear it that night, I'd have a dream of it, and I wouldn't even see the actual train. It was like a thin white outline, like a phantom train, going through the woods on my property and into the neighbor's field. And I never really thought anything of it until within the past few years I had started noticing it more. I always, in the past few videos that I've uploaded, I always talk about the entity that was brought here. It never lived and never died, so it can't be removed, blah, blah, blah. Well, I've seen it, and started out, my mom was the first one to see it, and then my aunt had seen it, and now I've seen it. It hasn't really tried to mess around with me too much. My aunt, it really likes to mess with her, but it has no body. It's almost like it's just a head with wings, in a way, and it hides in the shadows. Especially in the woods, it loves the woods, which is where I believe there's a portal. And whenever I do the portal episode, I'll explain more into that of why I believe there's a portal there and everything. It came flying out of the woods and just went right back in. But just that little bit of presence, what it does to me at least, is there's a vein right here in the side of your neck towards the back. And imagine if you didn't have skin there and somebody was just pushing a dull knife into that vein. The skin, you can't feel the skin move at all. Like if somebody's poking you in the neck, you can feel the skin move and push against it. Skin wouldn't move at all. It's just the vein pushing in. And it's almost excruciating. And it was just like until from the time I was outside to the time I got back in the house. But I had some property stolen from me, so I was doing rounds that night, and just this presence would make the paranormal activity go absolutely haywire. I mean, every single time I turned around, a full body apparition would pop up, and I'm trying to find people that are possibly stealing from me, and there's apparitions popping up everywhere. I almost started firing shots at people that weren't actually there. That it was just the apparitions. After that, that's when John growled at me, and been using the Deadwave app and just communicating with different spirits, which is another part of the reason why I believe there to be a portal here and of where it's at. Let's see here. Aside from that, the other night after we got back from Snyder Cemetery, and I'll save that for the episode pertaining to that. Aside from that, I've had some shadow figures recently in the house. Down here in the garage, I was working on something, and it's just like I said before, the energy here. It's sometimes you get tingles, but it's usually anxiety. Like you gotta constantly look over your back, and you're just constantly in fear. Is how strong the energy is. It's not like a tingling, chills. It's a lot stronger energy, and it starts affecting with your emotions. Aside from that, there's a entity that, and it's shadow figure, I believe. At least one time, whenever there's an entity in my bathroom, I'd seen a shadow figure after I came out of the bathroom. I was in the bathroom, and there's always like a draft in there. You can always see the shower curtain just kind of moving like that, kind of like a fish, but it's just constantly moving. Well, the corner of it was tucked up, and one time I was in there, it got tugged out straight against the where I like it to be, where it's just completely flush across the whole shower. But right after that, I was coming out of the bathroom. My mom's dog came running out of her room, just chasing nothing. Well, it was entity, but couldn't see anything. It was just running after thin air, and I followed him. And he's kind of looking into the entrance of the house, which is separate from the kitchen, but he's looking out the kitchen window where you can see the entrance, the outside of the entrance to the house. And so we both went out through there after he got done looking just at the washing machine, which is where the entrance is, and went out through there, and he started barking at thin air outside. And the way he was laying and everything, even if somebody did come up the driveway, he wouldn't have heard them or seen them or anything. And I didn't hear anybody coming up, and there was nobody out there. And there's just nothing there. But I believe it to be a shadow figure, considering I came out of the bathroom, turned the corner, saw one standing there. And the other night, just probably last night, my mom had a suction cup thing that you can stick a toothbrush in. It hangs on the mirror. That thing's been up there for 3 months now. It's not come loose or anything like that. At 5 o'clock the other day, it might have even been this morning, 5 o'clock, it gets tapped and it's flat down. Well, last night I was editing the videos and stuff like that, and getting them ready to go on YouTube. And there's decor all through my grandmother's house, and some of it was getting knocked down. I saw an orb going through the kitchen. When I try to avoid working on the list of places I want to go, it's funny. Every time I start typing for the list of places I want to check out, I just get, like I said, the anxious, anxiety filled feeling. And I was so on edge when I was working on this list that every single time my old lady would text me, the phone would vibrate on the uh, computer stand, and it scared the shit out of me. I would actually jump up in the chair with fear. But it's just like that constant, uh, really strong energy the entire time. And I saw a light anomaly while I was typing on the computer. There is dust around there, but the dust around there doesn't move. It's like it's soaked into the computer stand, and so light anomaly, and then it's just complete anxiety filled from there on out. And it got to the point where I just saved the progress and closed the computer and walked away. Went and laid down and texted my girlfriend. As soon as I walked away, I was feeling better. There was no anxiety, anxious feeling, nothing. It's just like a normal day. But that's all I have for you right now. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with your friends if you enjoyed it. Or anybody that you know that's into paranormal stuff. And everything that we do, as far as like, there will be merchandise in the future once the fan base grows a little bit. So if you'd like some merchandise to be released, help us build the fan base here. And I'll release it. The only reason why I'm waiting to release it is because for the first 2 weeks after I open up the store, you get 15% off of your total cost on anything in the shop. And I already have designs designed and everything. It's just a matter of waiting for the fan base to grow before I open it up, because I don't like to skip out on people. I know a lot of people are going to end up missing it, but the more that I figure I can help you guys out, the better. Because I know watching different channels and everything, I always want to donate to them or help them in any way I can, but I never have the extra funds to. So any way I can save you guys a little bit of money, I figure that'd be better. So yeah, and then with the merchandise, every time we go to a place like Snyder Cemetery, I'm going to upload a piece of merchandise for that specific episode, whether it be something that we say or something that happens that's just really crazy. We're going to use it as a design and have the name of the channel, Beyond the Veil Society, and the location of where it happened and everything. And so each one's can be personalized to each episode. And plan on doing giveaways in the future. Either have little contests, see if there's stuff that you picked out, or donations contests. The donation ones, the way I want to run it is not off of who donates the most or anything like that. Obviously, the way I'm going to do it, the more times you donate, the better chance you have of winning, but it's not an amount that I really care about or anything like that. But all the money that we make from either the merchandise or here or anything like that, donations, any of the money we make, unless something serious occurs where we have to, it's all going back into the channel. It's going to be better equipment, money for going on trips to different places, because sometimes these places ain't cheap. You have to pay $1,000 a night to stay at. So in the meantime, I'm doing the local free ones. I mean, the Newcastle Hillview Manor is 6 miles from my house. So if I can scrounge up the money to go there and record that, I'd like to have some better equipment to do it, rather than just phones and recorders for EVPs, because the camera that I have that I couldn't get a battery at the store at. It takes a special kind of battery, and the camera company is no longer even a company. So I have to order one through Walmart and hope that it's gonna work. And if it does, it's not night vision or full spectrum or anything like that. It's just a regular 1080p camera, but the way it fitted, it'd be first person view, which I think would be kind of fun to do for you guys. But yeah, so any way you guys can help, just share, like, comment, subscribe. Try to build the fan base, because the sooner that, the quicker we grow, the more places we can go. But this has been Beyond the Veil Society. Hope to see you on the next one. Later.